My name is Reverend Shay McKay. I am one of the ministers here at Unitarian. I want to welcome you here into this space. Welcome to those of you joining us online this evening, and welcome to our very special guests who are joining us this evening. We here at Unity have begun over the past year or so opening our worship services and our large gatherings with a land acknowledgement, and I would like to do that this evening with you. We stand on the homelands of the Dakota and the Ojibwe nations. We honor with gratitude the people who have stewarded the land throughout the generations and their ongoing contributions to this region. We acknowledge the ongoing injustices that we have committed against the Dakota and Ojibwe nations, and we wish to interrupt this legacy, beginning with acts of healing and honest storytelling about this place. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
My name is Jean Hammack, and I want to add a second welcome. And on behalf of Unity's Act for the Earth team and Indigenous Justice team. And thank you, Shay, and want to thank, and I think probably Becky, who's closing, will also thank the incredible support we've gotten from the church staff in holding this event tonight. We're very excited to be being able to sponsor and host a concert by Annie Murphy and Annie Humphrey. Craig's been like, I don't know why, Annie, I have Murphy in my head, but Annie Humphrey, how many hundreds of times have I seen your name in the last 2 months? We want to also thank you all who are here in person, and we want to thank all those who are joining us by live stream. I want to thank Annie, her the daughter, grandchildren, and just want to acknowledge the chalk art murals that were done in the entryway. And if you came in, so the chalk art team, stand up if you contributed to the chalk art. Come on, Craig. And a few more who are either shy or they're not in the sanctuary right now. And as you'll see from your program, Annie is a member of the Leech Lake Reservation. She is the cultural arts organizer for Honor the Earth. She is a lifetime Leech Laker, and she knows what it's like to live on the reservation in that area as an Anishinaabe Ojibwe person. And she knows the impact that the Huber Lumber Mill Project, she knows firsthand the impact the Huber Lumber Mill Project might cause to the sacredness of that land. She's an artist in many ways, as you can see from the chalk art, and as we will all be able to witness and enjoy in her singing. We had hoped that Gina Peltier would be here to talk a little bit about what's going on around the Huber Lumber Mill Project, but fortunately, Daniel Lachmacher, I've been practicing that, from Honor the Earth is here, and he will be sharing information about the project and kind of the support that's needed to stop it from happening near the Leech Lake Reservation, and tell us much more about that. I also want to just say that my team member from Act for the Earth, Craig Cox, you'll be hearing from him, and Becky Gonzalez-Campoy from the Indigenous Justice team here will be closing our program for tonight, and she'll be reminding you, but I just have to say that we're very happy that the church is supporting us in hosting a reception afterwards in the parish hall that is being catered by the sous chef catering, which if you, Owamni restaurant. So we'll get just a little taste of what they have to offer. So with that, I want to really welcome you to the piano and welcome you to Unity Church and to this concert tonight, Annie. We're So pleased to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Yeah, we have this little plan. This winter we had a Zoom meeting, and I said, I'll come to St. Paul. So the issue is not just Huber Mill. There's lots of different forms of Huber Mill, and they are all corporations usually that just want to come through and take resources away from the treaty territories. And it's not just, it's anywhere they go. I mean, the pipelines don't only run through reservations and treaty territories, they run all over. So the Huber Mill was something that was kind of just, it was just there one day on the radio, and no one had heard, there was no warning, right? And so it was quite surprising when the America's largest OSB plant would be built in Cohasset. But we did a lot of work organizing, and it's held up right now. But there are other Huber Mills on the way. I mean, they've already arrived. But I want to start with a song that I wrote. It's kind of a love song to my kids, and they're 28, 26, and 18. I wrote a song. We all have friends. And if you have Facebook, you have a lot of friends. And but you think about, you have acquaintances and you know a lot of people, but then how many friends, if you really think about it, who really has your back, who would stick up for you even you weren't in the room, or you got those kind of friends too, and you don't need very many of those kind. And I thought one day, so I was in the Marine Corps, and I still think to myself, when I meet new people, when I meet somebody new and I think they're really cool, and I think, would I go to war with them? And I know that's still silly because I've been out for a long, long time. But I still think that, and I think about that, and there are two people I would go to war with, and that is John Trudell and my big brother. So I wrote a song about them. Fighting fear with both of my fists, landing right hooks seems so useless. Put down the gloves and pray instead. St. John reminds me that the fear's in your head. Big brother gave me my name, about standing calm in the tempest. St. John on my left, big brother on my right. The beast is coming fast, and he's hungry for a fight. Fire falls all around us, with harder times on the horizon. Advancing online, with money signs in their eyes, and my gentle, angry heart raging inside. This is my homeland, and I've sworn to protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. My suit of armor made of Copenhagen lids deflect and protect, 'cause the beast never sleeps. Fire falls all around us, with harder times on the horizon. Advancing online, with money signs in their eyes, and my gentle, angry heart raging inside. St. John and Miquam, they help me to be brave. One lands the right hooks, and the other one prays. Fire falls all around us, with harder times on the horizon. Advancing online, with money signs in their eyes, and my gentle, angry heart raging inside. My gentle, angry heart raging inside. I was a paraprofessional at the Buganagisha School. I was working in the kindergarten classroom and helping kids get their trays and things. And I worked there for 3 years. And I was in the cafeteria one day, and I thought, if I don't get out of here soon, I'm going to get stuck. I'll probably start having kids, and I'll never get out of here. And that very day after work, that's how I ended up. I just went to the recruiter station in Bemidji, and I picked the coolest uniform, and that's how I chose it. And I was gone just a couple weeks after that, and I was really far away from home. I was over the ocean, and my father, he never wrote to me all my 4 years, but he sent me a little box in the mail, and it was rainy, and we were in the field, and it just wasn't really any fun for a long time. But one day the mail truck came up with, and the hot chow truck came up. So we had hot food one day, and they brought us mail. And I got this little box from my dad all the way from Cass Lake, and I opened it, and it was a Ziploc bag of wild rice. So, if you smell wild rice, there's nothing like it. And I could just smell the lake and the sun, and, we used to finish, oh my gosh, we finished hundreds of pounds of rice in a parching kettle, and my dad ran this thrasher that he'd made, and the women would fan the rice in the birch bark trays, and I remember the moment. I remember I was in Japan, and I remember that was the moment I realized that I couldn't live anywhere else. I had to come back home. When I left, because I swore never to return, but I did, because my dad taught us to live to live with the land. And tomorrow, I'm going to the Capitol to meet with the governor's staff and appeal to them about these projects that don't seem to stop coming. And I hope I can make sense to them. And that's the problem, right? The problem is getting the right combination of words at the right moment and just get them in there. But we'll see what happens. This next song is I wrote for women. Sometimes people often think that the murdered and missing Indigenous women problem is a contemporary thing, but it's not contemporary. This has been going on for a very, very long time. And now, women aren't safe to go out in a bar. If you're Indian, you better have don't go alone, and you got to be really careful. And so these assaults are happening. And when they happen, of course, a lot of women think it's their fault. I shouldn't have been at the bar. I shouldn't have been, but it's not their fault. And but they still go through their lives carrying that shame, and I know this is true.
She prayed to the moon in all her phases. She walked on sunlight, no day was wasted. And now she don't hardly pray no more. And now she don't hardly pray. She played her piano, songs of purple and red. Somehow they turned blue instead. And now she don't hardly play no more. And now she don't hardly play. At twilight she retreats from all its strangeness, lavender skies turning dark fast. And now we don't hardly see her no more. And now we don't hardly see her. She waits for healing out in the distance. On the sunset line she dances. And now she dances. And now she dances. She dances. Thank you. People think I'm a sad person, but I really am not sad. It just inspires me to write about stuff. I had a really great friend. His name was John Trudell. And if you don't know who John Trudell is, it'd be really great to research him, Google him, look him up on YouTube. Really intelligent person. Yeah, if you can listen to some of the things he has to say, I think it would really put a lot of things into focus, because sometimes it's so chaotic trying to pull the picture together, but he had a really good way of making that happen. And so one day I was kind of missing him, so I wrote a song about him. And for those of you who know who he was, he had a band, and Mark Shark and Quiltman, and the band was called Bad Dog. And I talk to them when I miss John a lot, and of course they miss him too. And this is my song for John. Your journey carried you away from here, far away but so near. And I feel the pain of knowing love, but loving anyway. I ran out of songs today. Did you ever feel that way? Maybe there's too much, just too much to say, but I ran out of songs today. Come sit beside me at my piano and cross that thin, thin line and whisper words from the other side. Send me lines from the other side. I promise to hold on to the lines. I promise
my mind won't be mined, and I'll think for myself and stop just believing, and you'll go on and on and on and on. When you flew into the shaking sky, and the light broke, and the night spoke, and the bad dog cried. I forgot. I'm supposed to let people talk. I was just going and going. And, So I think at this time we're going to have Daniel come and give a rundown on this Huber Mill. And actually it's really encouraging. I think the coming together of people really did make a difference.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you to Unity for hosting us here. It's going to start out tough, and then we're going to move into some of the good news that Annie talked about. And the tough part is going through and seeing just how unjust this process has been thus far, and seeing the potential damage that really could take place if it does move forward. And so to begin, taking a look at how this even started, and it goes back multiple years in which the Huber Corporation, which is a privately owned multi-billion-dollar corporation with locations around the world, doesn't sound like anything new so far, right? But they went out shopping, so to speak, in the sense of shopping for a new location for an OSB plant, a manufacturing plant of particle board, or their particular proprietary version of it. And they were going around to different states and locations, and they did this discreetly, not even disclosing their name. And one of their spots is, well, Minnesota has lots of good forests, and that's what feeds our plants. And so without even disclosing who they were, they sent a consulting firm to try and see what kind of a deal they could get. And as it turned out, Minnesota and Itasca County, and particularly the city of Cohasset, seemingly gave them the best deal because they made the decision to come here. So some of the things they were looking for: cheap and easy location for lumber. And they also knew that, hey, these OSB plants, well, they have a huge environmental impact. So they knew from the get-go, before they had even started, part of what they were shopping for was not just the cost savings in terms of land and location and things like that, but the cost savings and the important piece of getting the environmental process gone through. And so during the height of resistance to Line 3 last summer, a lot of folks' eyes were focused on that. In the summer of 2021, the legislature actually passed a provision saying that Huber, if they come here based on the size of the project, well, they're going to get an exemption from the most complete environmental review that would normally take place for that type of project. And that was also the time at which folks like the chairman and people of Leech Lake Nation, that they first even became apprised that this was even a question of Huber moving into the area. And so they found out via press release, and this went through as part of a legislative process, but they did only put based on the size of the project. But as we'll touch on, there's many other factors of a project beyond just its size that relates to the level of environmental review it should have. So let's take a little closer look at what exactly Huber hopes to be doing. And that, as I've said, build an OSB plant, but what exactly does that mean? Or Huber Mill has been the term that's been tossed around. The confusing part about that is, yes, it is processing timber, so in a sense it's a mill, but this is not like your grandfather's mill where he's taking some logs down and shaving them off and cutting them up into timber. This is a 750,000 square foot building that they have planned. So 10 stories high, thinking 120 football fields long in terms of the size of this. And that location, 1 mile from the boundary of Leech Lake Nation. They found out about it via the press release. This also a key factor that a lot of folks in the city of Cohasset, the ones who actually ended up approving the very limited environmental review that has gone on this far. Something that they didn't seem to understand is that even though it was a mile outside of Leech Lake Nation's boundary, it is squarely within the 1855 treaty territory. And so that's where we'll take a very, very brief detour, because I'm sure we have a wide range of knowledge in the audience about what treaty territory even means. So for some, this will be like total surface level. For some, like me, it would have been a few years ago. This will be kind of a mind-blowing thing. So we'll see where it falls across the audience. But Indigenous people, the Anishinaabe and others, their rights are not just bound to the reservation boundaries. So treaty territory oftentimes existed before the reservation itself was even established. So in 1855, there was one among many, around that time period, series of treaties. And a key part of this that I didn't know as a child growing up, or even as a young adult, is that what those treaties, particularly these ones here in northern Minnesota, what they did is it wasn't the settlers giving rights within these treaties to the Indigenous people who were living here, in this case the Anishinaabe. It was the reverse, and this is still the correct understanding from the Supreme Court on down, that these are rights from the 1855 treaty that have been given to the United States, to the settlers, from those Indigenous people. So gave the rights to be able to buy the land, could be privately held, things like that. But everything not in there is reserved rights for the Anishinaabe. And so they still have rights to any of the public lands that exist within the 1855 or other of the treaty territories. And there are some things that are explicitly written out, things like hunting, fishing, gathering, ricing. And there are lots of others that, again, if they're not explicitly stated that those rights were ceded or given to the settlers, to the United States, those rights are still held by the Anishinaabe. And so even though this is 1 mile outside of Leech Lake Nation's reservation, there's a whole series of people, not just from Leech Lake, who have the rights on public land within that area to be ricing. And there's huge reserves of rice on lakes in that area. To be gathering medicines from the forests that Huber intends to have cut down. And so this is where it really becomes, as this was characterized as an event, an issue of Indigenous rights. Environmental rights as well. These things are always overlapping. But that's our brief detour into treaty territory and why that's so important, because somebody at one point, more than once, has been like, yeah, exactly, a mile outside of Leech Lake. Really missing the point. So hopefully we've all learned something or had a little refresher on that. And again, what they're planning on doing, it's not just that they're cutting down the trees, it's not just that they're building this big building, but in particular, manufacturing-oriented strand board, OSB, it involves actually a lot of additives, toxic chemicals to be able to hold that particle board together and to withstand the weather in buildings and things like that. So that's what they have planned. So again, for scale, 750,000 square feet. This is a dated reference perhaps for some in the audience, but the Metrodome, 900,000 square feet. And so if you just think about how big a structure like that stands out even within a city, think about when you're in a much more rural place. This is not just a small project. So again, that's why they knew from the get-go. They thought their workaround was going to be that through the legislature, well, we'll get exempted for the size of our project. There's more to it than just the size. One of those things being what they've disclosed as their intended harvest, the forest loss. So they estimate between 400,000, 500,000 cords of wood per year. I'm guessing fewer folks down here are heating their homes based on wood, so a cord size-wise might not mean anything to you. So I'll put in a little different percentage perspective. A contested number, but the state number for the entire harvest that could safely be done from the entire state of Minnesota, which many ecologists and foresters disagree with, but still the current number, 975,000. Part of the difference being they're wanting to get that 400 to 500,000 cords of wood within a 100-mile radius at the most of the plant, because they don't want to have to pay for trucking it that much further, and there's lots of forest in that area. And so they want to take about half or potentially even more than half of what's allotted for the entire state from this one region. And I'm sure, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of like, oh, they targeted it this way. I think there are reasons why, but if you look within that 100-mile radius, at who all that encompasses in terms of what are supposed to be recognized as sovereign nations by the state of Minnesota and by the US. So Leech Lake Nation squarely in the middle, White Earth, Red Lake, Boys Fort or Net Lake, Mille Lacs, Fond du Lac, even the Vermilion Lake Reservation, all impacted. And so again, even folks that potentially aren't living in this area but have treaty reserved rights in this area, folks that live down here in the Twin Cities, perhaps go up and do ricing, impacted by this as well. So the forestry loss is another reason why intending to do this much forest destruction alone should require this more thorough environmental review that so far they have escaped. Animals are threatened as well. I do hope you'll take the time. They've got it playing in a couple different places, some really phenomenal footage of an eagle flying across a wetland area in winter. What's particularly neat about this is that is one of 2 eagles that is actually living on the property where they intend to build. So Honor the Earth has some folks that do drone work with us. They went out and they just wanted to be able to see, because you can see on the slide they've got 2 nests the company has identified. They're going to have to destroy those just for the building. This isn't to say what other eagles' nests will potentially be destroyed from the process of deforestation to feed the plant. This is just to get started by constructing that large building. And so they've identified these nests. So we had folks within our organization go out and take a look, try and see where they were. And what happened is almost like the eagle's like, hey, I'm going to give you a tour. Please show this to people, show them what's at stake. And so in that video, what you see is one of the 2 eagles that's nested and living out in this area, taking off and taking you a tour over some of this wetland area, right where Huber intends to build. Of course, it's not just eagles that will be threatened, a whole series of creatures. One in particular that's recently moved back into the threatened species category is the gray wolf. And as we all know, it's when you break up a forest into pieces, even if you don't lose the whole thing, it destroys habitat, both in terms of plant and in terms of animal life. If they can't get between an area just because you have some sequestered little checkerboard areas of forest still existing, it's not the same as a complete ecosystem. Further impacts, all this logging, even though they're trying to keep it in a tighter radius, it's going to dramatically increase the truck traffic, which it's one thing, again, when we think about being down in a city here where we've got some more infrastructure in terms of sidewalks. A lot of folks, a lot of the rural areas, they don't. And so this increased truck traffic is that much more dangerous for kids who are crossing over some of these rural roads, for people who are using the non-existent paved but shoulder areas to be either biking to and from or walking to work, to school, etc. As well, this is where it gets into the sweet deal that they negotiated. They plan on building, not themselves having to pay for it, but a new railroad to access the plant as well. So some of their finished materials can be shipped out by rail, but they want that spur going right to their plant. Part of the deal that they have right now is that Itasca County taxpayers are actually going to be the ones to pay for the installation of that new railroad. One of the key things, again, that I think gets lost when you just hear the term Huber Mill is the idea of air pollution. And the air pollution impact is, by some people who've got more environmental knowledge than I, it's what they're most concerned about. And part of the reason they're most concerned is what's in the photograph there is very, very close to where Huber intends to build. It's the Boswell Energy Center. It's the 2nd largest CO2 emitter in the state, so it's a massive air polluter. Huber intends to build in that same area as Boswell. Don't know for sure. One of the reasons may be benefit to both Huber and Boswell, and that it will be very difficult to say, well, who exactly is emitting what pollution when you go out there and try and take some measurements. But it's also unknown what the mixing of the pollutants might do between the 2 facilities. But what we do know is that Huber alone, from what they've disclosed about what they acknowledge will be emitted from the process of creating this OSB, is that a lot of particulate matter will be emitted. So tiny little pieces that will actually be inhaled by people, by animals in that near vicinity. Now the particulate isn't what's going to travel hundreds of miles, but it's going to travel a smaller radius, and it directly threatens human health, particularly for people who have higher issues of coronary heart disease, who have respiratory issues, things all of which are elevated because of the historic environmental injustices around Leech Lake. They're at higher risk of these things already, and now the proposal is to add in a new polluter. So again, this particulate pollution, it correlates with premature death, with heart attacks, with asthma, with respiratory problems. Who is most impacted? Children, because they tend to be spending the most time outside and playing. As well, the air pollution, we'll take a look at a map in a moment. It's estimated roughly 30,000 acres of wild rice lakes that particulate matter could be falling on, because it's such a water-rich area. As well, when you think about climate change in the bigger picture, adding in what would be the 11th largest greenhouse gas emitter in the state, not a move in the right direction either. So again, the air pollution impacts alone, again, would merit this more thorough environmental review, the EIS. For a different perspective on it, the site is located there, and then there's wild rice areas that circle. This is from Ben Benoit from Leech Lake. He works with their Division of Resource Management, just pointing out just how close. You can see as well the Boswell Energy Facility just up and to the right, to the northeast of the circled area. That's where Boswell is. On the graphic, it's in the what would be the northwest is the site where Huber plans to build. So last but not least, and this is where actually there's room for hope, the wetland destruction that they have planned directly. And that is that to build the facility itself, and particularly to build that railroad spur to it, it's wetland, and so it's not safe to build on as is, so they have proposed draining about 30 acres of wetland. And in order to do that, what they need to do is they do need to get a permit from a federal agency, the Army Corps of Engineers. And this is where we've made some real headway. Because a very important thing that you have to do, seems like a basic thing, but a basic criteria of getting a wetland permit, or a permit to drain and fill wetlands, is that you have to show that what you want to put there can't simply be located somewhere that doesn't require draining and filling wetland. Now, all that Huber did was they named all of the essentially economic reasons why it's beneficial better than anywhere else for it to be here. Thankfully, our environmental attorney and a number of others, we've corralled a lot of public support in pressuring the Army Corps to say, hey, this is a no-brainer. That is not a sufficient reason to say the alternatives aren't good enough. And the Army Corps has thus far looked at it and said, essentially, yeah, you're right. And so they went back to Huber, I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they said, we need some more information on these alternative sites. Kind of like that nudge, nudge, wink, wink, like, you gotta say something more about why you need to do this. And Huber sent some more stuff back in, and the Army Corps looked at it again and said, no, you need to tell us why it can't just be put somewhere else. And Huber sent some more stuff back in, and this is where we thankfully currently have a stall in the process. So it's not done, but hooray, hooray, in that it's, at the moment, not moving forward any further. And so if we look at the map, unfortunately it's not quite as big, but if you want to look at it after, I'll be happy to show it to you. The very center, this is very zoomed in. So if you can see the pink lines on there, we've got a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius. And so what you have in dark blue is all wetland. What you have in the greenish blue with the stripes, those are all wild rice lakes. And so this is what we mean when we say, like, this is a very water-rich area and an area where people have been ricing for hundreds, thousands of years. And so this is all what's at stake here. So like I said, the good news, it's stalled. It's not done. And that's where tonight we're asking you to continue to be involved. Annie's got this meeting with the governor tomorrow. part of what we've been asking Governor Walz is very directly. It's very targeted messaging. We've got it on a postcard out there for you to sign. We'll stamp and send it for you. But Governor Walz has made some very great statements, even put some of them in writing, even created an executive order about nation-to-nation consultation with the tribes. With this project, what he, by way of his agencies, have failed to do thus far is engage in that consultation. And so we've applied some pressure. We from Honor the Earth have had some meetings before with the governor's staffers, and there seemed to be some progress, because before the Army Corps kind of put the brakes on things, they had started to schedule some public hearings and some meetings and seeming to be at least making a show of being more in contact and upfront about things. More of the good news, again, is that since the Army Corps, the federal agency, has said, well, we're not doing anything further with this yet, currently the state agencies have said, well, we're not moving anything forward, we're not scheduling any more meetings, because as far as we know, nothing more is happening with this project unless we hear differently from the Army Corps. But we don't want to let the governor forget, both for the sake of this project and for the sake of others, that we want him to hold to his word. He's made some great statements. If he lives by them, if he acts by them, if he directs his agencies to follow the executive order that he has out there, it could do a lot to avoid it ending up in situations like this where so much is at stake. So we have a website as well. Easy to remember URL is protectmnforests.org. That will link you in with the rest of the Honor the Earth website as well, so don't be surprised if it changes up in your little address box, but lots more information there. There's the ability to send a comment still to the Army Corps. While their official public comment period has closed, they still haven't made an official no. We would like them to do that. So never hurts to send them. That'll get you signed up for other updates about this. I'll be out in the parish hall, I believe they call it, while folks are snacking. Be happy to talk through any of the issues. And I do just want to say thank you. I know your congregation here at Unity has already sent in dozens of postcards that Craig has helped to collect. Also let you know that the contributions that you make to organizations like ours, like Honor the Earth, are part of what funds the high-end environmental council who picks up on these things, can guide us through, can read all the legalese, and help us to be able to direct the public to get involved, for Annie to be making these trips around Leech Lake area and a number of other places where people understandably aren't reading through these public statements about like, oh, this project is coming out and that, and not being able to know what it means. And so your help and support really do make a difference. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Allie. Thank you to that awesome chalk mural team that you can meet in the parish hall in a few minutes, or after Annie finishes entertaining us. Just full disclosure, I'm going to ask you for money before I finish our remarks. But two things first. One is what you've heard from Daniel about the power of your voice and making your voice heard and convincing policymakers that this is a project that needs attention and needs to be examined. Because as Daniel explained, the whole thing has been flying under the radar and pushing ahead as fast as possible before there can be any real investigation of the implications. The second thing is, before I ask you for money, is to be clear about what is being asked, that money is being asked for. What Honor the Earth is asking for, what the Red Lake Nation is asking for, what the Leech Lake Nation is asking for, what the White Earth Nation is asking for, is only two simple things. One is to have full consultation with those tribal nations before this project moves forward. And secondly, to do a full-blown environmental impact statement before this project moves forward. In short, what the nations and Honor the Earth are asking is to obey the law and to keep the promises that have been made to the nations. So in addition to getting engaged with all of the mechanisms that Daniel can explain to you, which really do make a difference and have made a difference in this fight so far, I'd really like you to consider making a donation tonight to support the work that so desperately still needs to be done. So for those of you in the sanctuary tonight with us, there's a QR code in your program. If you'd like to make an online donation, we will be passing the baskets as Annie plays us out. So if you want to write a check, please make that check payable to Honor the Earth. If you want to donate cash, we will make sure that Honor the Earth gets all of those donations. For those of you in the cloud up there somewhere, there is a link that you can use to donate tonight to Honor the Earth. It's at the information bar at the bottom of the live stream screen. So please consider a donation tonight. It will make a big difference for the tribal nations. It'll make a big difference for everyone that lives in that area. And it is the headwaters of the Mississippi. So Annie, if you'd come back to your piano.
I think in the announcement or the introduction, I was called the Art and Cultural Coordinator. Well, I don't do that anymore. I am now part of the Just Transition team. So I think a lot of the donations, we're trying to develop building with hemp and actually manufacturing hemp panels. So you could build in any time of the year instead of you need 6 weeks to cure a hemp house. So during COVID, I couldn't make money singing. I didn't go and do this. So I went to carpentry school. And I started building, and now I build more than I do this. Here's a song. This is the newest song I wrote. And I wrote it because sometimes people might be under the impression when I talk and sing that I know more than other people do, but I really don't. So then I feel pressure, like, oh, I should be smarter. But yeah, you'll know me a lot better after we're done with this song. Okay. Is it okay if my hair is tangled up and getting gray? Is it okay if I don't moisturize the wrinkles around my eyes? Is it okay if I say I've never sinned? Is it okay that I draw stories in my skin? Is it okay if I swear a lot when I speak? Is it okay that I got bunions on my
okay if I say it's my loves that weigh me down? And I wouldn't give up a single pound of the heartbreak that's come and gone, and the heartache that is sure to come, because I love, because I love, because I love. I'm gonna do, gosh, what should I do? I want to do a cover song because my niece texted me one day and she's like, Auntie, you got to learn this song. It's really cool. I heard it on Sons of Anarchy. And she sent it to me. And I'm like, that's not a new song. That's a Neil Young song because, you know, they're so young. They don't know. Hey, hey, my, rock and roll will never die. There's more to the picture than meets the eye. Hey, hey, my. Out of the blue and into the black, you paid for this, but they give you that. And once you leave here, you can't come back. When you're out of the blue and into the black. The king is gone, but he's not forgotten. Is this the tale of Johnny Rotten? It's better to burn out than to fade away. The king is gone, but he's not forgotten. Hey, hey, my, rock and roll will never die. There's more to the picture than meets the eye. Hey, hey, my. Hey, hey, my. Can we do it together? Hey, hey, my. Hey, hey, my. Hey, hey, my. Thank you. So I think that's a good way to end it, doing something together. You know, it felt good, you know? And I think that being in rooms together creates power, right? It's like praying. I once heard that, if you all remember, I was at a powwow, and the MC, he stopped the powwow and he said, Mother Teresa and Princess Di just passed away. And it was said that the world, the wobble and the spin of the world stopped wobbling for a while, like prayers and thoughts were going up, and it actually changed the movement of the earth. I don't know if that's true. I like to think it's true because they are both really great women. So, you know, money helps. Money helps a little bit, but I think that mostly what I would like to see, because people do be like, what can we do? And I believe that, for me, what I believe is decolonization is something, it's a state of mind. It's not that I have to go and build a house off the grid. It's a state of mind. Where am I from? Where is my reference point, and what am I in reference to the earth I'm walking on? And so that's really what it is. Where do you come from? You are a spiritual being. We're all spiritual beings. And when we pray, our prayers are delivered to the same place. And so there are more similarities than differences. And that's important for all of us to remember, because these companies, they're not going to care one day if it's Indians or who you are. I think one day we're all going to be sinking on the same ship. So changing how you think, and I think then changing how your perspective, and how important is it to have a really large house and a lot of appliances that suck up this fuel, and this, I'm not the hero, but the Boswell plant is this huge plant 7 miles from my house. You know, how much do you really need? And so I think it's, and in building these hemp houses, I'm gonna build small houses. It's almost like trying to fit in your wedding dress. I'm gonna make little dresses, so you gotta fit. And I'm not gonna make them big, because the consumption is too much. We have, as consumers, we buy things that keep us comfortable. Any little thing to keep us comfortable. So then we deprive ourselves of discomfort, and then we don't remember how it feels to be too hot or too cold or too tired or too whatever. But I think that we can be strong again. We can be strong people with our own intellect and our own heart-connected truths, and I think that's going to make the difference. I'm not sure, writing a check. I'm not saying don't give money. Give the money, but it's really it's a state of mind that we have to change, and it can happen one person at a time or two people at a time. But you guys, it is a hard thing to do. Look at your own house. I look at my own house, and I have a little tiny refrigerator, and I just bought a washing machine, you guys, I'm sorry. But because I got tired of the Maytag, and then pushing my clothes through and breaking my buttons and breaking my zippers and stuff, so I did get a washing machine last week. I must say it's really nice. You just press the button and it just does everything. But just thinking of ways in your own life how we can cut back on how much do we really need, and how much discomfort can I stand? Am I willing to stand? And really, for me, it's about the future. I have my grandsons with me all the time, and I think about them. And we all have, a lot of you I can tell have grandkids, and there has to be something left for them. If this mill went through, it would forever change the landscape of our homeland. And that is why I got involved. That is why I'm building hemp houses. Well, actually, I'm project manager on my very first hemp build. So I'm really excited about that, yeah. So I guess we're gonna go have some really, really, really good food. And I have CDs, and I just take donations for those. And then I make stuff, I bead things, and so yeah, I'm peddling stuff out front. Okay, so thank you very, very much for coming. Thank you, the people
on the live stream for tuning in. And yeah, let's go out and make the world more beautiful. Miigwech.
Thank you, Annie and Daniel, for an amazing presentation and great information, and for starting the conversation that we at Unity want to continue throughout the year. We're going to be producing a series that is going to be looking at the truth-telling and education and repair and healing, and we're going to be doing something every month that will touch on various topics that fit under those headings, just to keep us learning and moving in the right direction, 1 to 10 people at a time. Now, I happen to know that the sous chef and Awamni is kind of hard to get into, but we got great food over in the parish hall, so please try it out. Savory and sweet, some great iced tea. Annie's got our merch. We at the 2 community outreach ministry teams, Act for the Earth and Indigenous Justice, both have information if you want to check us out, as well as Honor the Earth. But really do focus on Annie and Honor the Earth, because we're always here. They're not. So please go enjoy, continue the conversation. You can go outside if you want, but stop by the parish hall first. Thank you.